Hello everybody, in this video we'll talk about famous characters on Turkish Lira banknotes. Our first character is Aydın Sayılı. He was a Turkish historian of science. Sayılı was born in Istanbul on 2 May 1913. He graduated from Atatürk High School in Ankara. His career was aided by chance meeting with Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, whom he impressed enough to receive a state-supported scholarship to attend Harvard University, where he studied the history of science. In 1942, Sayılı obtained a PhD degree in history of science at Harvard University under supervision of George Sarton. His PhD thesis focused on the scientific institutions in the Islamic world and represents one of the first PhD theses written on Islamic studies in Harvard University. Sayılı began to work at the Department of Philosophy at Ankara University in 1943. He became an associate professor in 1946 and full professor in 1952. He was promoted to be distinguished professor in 1958. Sayılı retired in 1983 and was appointed the head of the Atatürk Culture Center in 1984. His term lasted until 1993. He also served as member of the Turkish History Society and International Academy of History of Science. In 1973, Aydın Sayılı was awarded by the Polish government with the Copernicus Medal for his work on the Polish astronomer Nicolaus Copernicus. In 1977, he was decorated by the TÜBİTAK Service Award. In 1980, he was selected as a member of the International Editorial Committee of UNESCO. In 1981, he was awarded by Istanbul University the Excellent Service Award, and in 1990 he was decorated by the UNESCO Award for his lifetime achievements. Sayılı's works have been published in Turkish, English, Arabic and Persian, such as The Observatory in Islam. Sayılı died of heart attack in Ankara on 15 October 1993, aged 80. He was buried at Cebeci Cemetery in Ankara on 18 October 1993. Sayılı's portrait is depicted on the reverse of the Turkish 5 lira.
Hello everybody. Today I'm going to be talking about an important figure in Turkish science history, mathematics history to be exact, Cahit Arf. Cahit Arf was born on 11 October 1910 in Thessaloniki, which was then a part of the Ottoman Empire. His family migrated to Istanbul with the outbreak of the Balkan War in 1912. The family finally settled in Izmir, where Cahit Arf received his primary education. Upon receiving a scholarship from the Turkish Ministry of Education, he continued his education in Paris and graduated from École Normale Supérieure. Returning to Turkey, he taught mathematics at Galatasaray High School in 1933. He joined the mathematics department of Istanbul University. In 1937, he went to Göttingen, where he received his PhD from the University of Göttingen, and he worked with Helmut Hasse and Joshua Cruz de Munoz. He returned to Istanbul University and worked there until he was involved with the foundation work of Scientific and Technological Research Council, TÜBİTAK, upon President Cemal Gürsel's appointment in 1962. After serving as the founding director of the council in 1963, he joined the mathematics department of Robert College in Istanbul. Arf spent the period of 1964 to 1966 working at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. He later visited the University of California, Berkeley for 1 year. Upon his final return to Turkey, he joined the mathematics department of the Middle East Technical University and continued his studies there until his retirement in 1980. Arf received numerous awards for his contributions to mathematics Among them are İnönü Award in 1948, Scientific and Technological Research Council of Turkey, TÜBİTAK, Science Award in 1974, and Commandeur de Palme Academique, France in 1994. Arf was a member of the Mainz Academy and the Turkish Academy of Sciences. He was the president of the Turkish Mathematical Society from 1985 until 1989. Arf died on December 26, 1997 in Bebek, Istanbul at the age of 87. His collected works were published in 1988 by the Turkish Mathematical Society.
Mimar Kemalettin. Ahmet Kemalettin, widely known as Mimar Kemalettin, Kemalettin the Architect and Kemalettin Bey, was a renowned Turkish architect of the very late period of the Ottoman architecture and the early years of the newly established republic. He was among the pioneers of the first national architectural movement. His lifetime saw intense and important changes for Turkish history and culture. Ahmet Kemalettin was born 1870 in a middle-class family to Ali Bey, a naval captain, and his wife Sadberk Hanım at Acıbadem, neighborhood of Kadıköy district in Istanbul. In 1875, he began with his primary education at İbrahim Ağa İptidai Mektebi. He continued his secondary education in 1881 on Crete due to his father's assignment. Returned soon after to Istanbul, he finished the high school in 1887. At the age of 17, he entered the School of Civil Engineering. Ahmet Kemalettin graduated as an engineer with honors in 1891. He then remained at his alma mater and worked as an assistant for 4 years. During this time, he created his own works in his office he had opened outside the university. In 1895, promoted by his scholar German architect August Yazmund. Afterwards, he worked 2.5 years in various architecture offices, gaining professional experience. In 1900, Ahmet Kemalettin returned home and resumed work at the university. Following the departure of August Yazmund, he assumed his post as lecturer. In 1908, he played a pioneering role in the formation of the first vocational organization for engineers and architects in the Ottoman Empire, the site of Ottoman architects and engineers. The availability of information and documentation of the first years of Kemalettin's life is very limited. All that is known is that he started at the İbrahim Ağa Primary School near his home in 1875, and that he learned French and Arabic at the special school to which his father was appointed, opened for children of army officers in Crete in 1881. When he returned to Istanbul, he continued his education at Numune Terakki School. He graduated from this school in 1887. He was accepted into the second class of the Hendese-i Mülkiye. He was awarded the Medal for Industry while he was still a student and graduated in 1891. On 18 May 1909, he was appointed head of architecture at the Imperial Ministry of Foundations. His restoration works are the least well known and the least documented of Kemalettin Bey's works. We can find out about the restoration of the Yeni Cami Hunkar Imperial Gathering Place from written documents and the restoration of Fatih Mosque and its rest house and Nur Osmaniye Mosque from the drawings and in the archive of the General Directorate of Foundations. In 1908, Ahmet Kemalettin Bey was appointed director of the Construction and Restoration Department at the Ministry of Foundations. He designed 4 railway stations for the Oriental Railway Company. For his successful for the construction of Plovdiv Central Railway Station. He was tasked with the design of railway stations of Thessaloniki and Edirne. At the railway station of Thessaloniki, only the foundations were completed. The railway station of Edirne could be completed in 1914. In 1908, he built a girls' high school in Edirne, which went 1910 in education. He was invited by the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem to carry out restoration work on the Al-Aqsa Mosque. He accepted the invitation and went to Jerusalem. He stayed there a while. For his successful restoration work, Mimar Kemalettin Bey was awarded with honorific membership by the Royal Institute of British Architects, RIBA. After returning home, he focused his works on buildings in Ankara. Regrettably, Kemalettin Bey's dazzling career crowned by his restoration of the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, and he won the Reba Award for it. Ahmet Kemalettin died on July 13, 1927, in Ankara at the building site of Ankara Palace as a result of a cerebral hemorrhage at the age of 57. He was survived by his wife Sabiha and son İlhan Mimaroğlu, who became a renowned composer. His corpse was transferred to Istanbul and was laid to rest at the Karacaahmet Cemetery. Some years later, without the knowledge of his family, his grave was moved to the graveyard of Bayezid II Mosque due to the construction of a road between Kadıköy and Üsküdar, which went through the cemetery on the spot of his grave. Reburied at the new site without a stone, his grave was discovered in the 1990s. In 2007, his burial place was restored. Notable works of him include honors. In 2009, a new series of Turkish lira banknotes went into circulation. The reverse side of the 20 lira banknote depicts Mimar Kemalettin together with one of his major works, the Rectorate building of Gazi University in Ankara.
Fatma Aliye Topuz, often known as Fatma Aliye, was a Turkish novelist, essayist, women's rights activist, and a humanitarian. Although there was an earlier published novel by the Turkish female author Zafer Hanım in 1877, since that one remained her only novel, Fatma Aliye Hanım, with her 5 novels, is credited as the first female novelist in Turkish literature and the Islamic world. Fatma Aliye Hanım was born in Istanbul on 18th of October 1862. She was educated informally at home, since at that time it was not common for girls to enroll in formal classes, even though there was no legal restrictions on female education. Through her intellectual curiosity, she acquired a high level of proficiency in Arabic and French. She debuted in literature in 1889 with the translation of George Onet's novel Volante from French into Turkish, under the title Meram. The book was published under her pen name Bir Hanım, which means a lady. After her first translation, she used the pen name, the female translator of Volante, in her consecutive translations. Fatma Aliye published her first novel, Muhadarat, which means useful information, in 1892, under her real name. It was the first novel in entire Ottoman Empire written by a woman. Besides her literary works, she wrote for 13 years between 1895 and 1808 columns in the magazine Ladies' Own newspaper about women's rights without giving up her conservative views. In her 1896 published book, Women of Islam, Fatma Aliye explained the situation of Muslim women to the Western world. As written in her magazine columns, she defended in this book the conservative traditions contrary to the modern characters she created in her novels. Fatma Aliye's portrait is depicted on the reverse of the 50 Turkish lira banknote issued in 2009. However, the Turkish Central Bank's decision to choose her to appear as the first woman ever as the first female Turkish writer created controversy among Turkish people of letters and historians. The critics argued that female writers like Halide Edip Adıvar or Afet İnan of the Republican era are more appropriate to adorn a banknote with Atatürk's portrait on the obverse than Fatma Aliye. Having lived her last years in poor health and financial disasters, she died on 13th July 1936 in Istanbul. She was laid to rest at the Feriköy Cemetery.
Yunus Emre. Yunus Emre is a poet and mystic who exercised a powerful influence on Turkish literature. Although legend obscures the facts of his life, he is known to have been a Sufi who sat for 40 years at the feet of his master, Tapduk Emre. Yunus Emre was well versed in mystical philosophy, especially that of 13th century poet and mystic Celaleddin Rumi. Like Celaleddin Rumi, Yunus Emre became a leading representative of mysticism in Anatolia, but on a more popular level. He was venerated as a saint after his death. His poems, which are devoted mainly to the themes of divine love and human destiny, are characterized by deep feeling. He wrote in a straightforward, almost austere style and mainly in the traditional syllabic meter of Anatolian folk poetry. His verse had a decisive influence on later Turkish mystics and inspired the poets of the Renaissance of Turkish national poetry after 1910. Also, he is printed to the 200 Turkish liras, which is the highest paper money of the Turkey Republic.